Hello and welcome back to Liberty Wolf, episode number 37. My name is Zach Strong, and today this is going to be brief but important. It's about some of the updates happening right now in Ukraine. Russia has invaded. This is February 24th in the morning. I hope to get this out in the afternoon. Some of the things may have been updated by then, some new things might have occurred. It's a very fluid situation. It always is when you're invading a country. So that's the biggest point I want to make here is that Vladimir Putin is the aggressor. It is not NATO. NATO forces are not in Ukraine. Russian forces are in Ukraine. NATO cruise missiles are not being dropped on Kiev right now. Russian cruise missiles are hitting the capital, Kiev. NATO forces didn't cross the border near Kursk and are headed towards Kharkov, Ukraine. Those were Russian forces. NATO forces didn't enter Ukraine just above the capital, Kiev, some 90 miles or so away from Belarus. No, those are Russian troops that entered the border, crossed the border from Belarus into Ukraine, headed towards their capital city. Oh, and by the way, those Russian forces, Russia said, we're taking those home after the drill ends on February 20th. They didn't. That was a lie. They kept them there. They pretended they did a partial withdrawal. Okay, Israel did the same thing in 1967. They broadcast that all their troops were going on leave. Wink, wink. Actually, we're going to preemptively strike you. And that's what happened. They took the Arabs by surprise. That's why the war lasted only a week. Similar thing here. Yeah, we're withdrawing. And then a couple days later, Belarus announces, actually, 30,000 Russian troops will stay here indefinitely. And there was reports that they were hanging out near the border in the forest. Here's the thing. Again, it was not NATO or the United States or Poland or Ukraine doing it to themselves who launched an amphibious assault of Odessa. Russian troops did, though, last night. Russian troops are in Odessa. They came by sea. A few days ago, news broke that a Russian armada was forming, basically, in the Black Sea, Sea of Azov, and all those areas. And one of the staging points was Crimea, which Putin stole in 2014. Does no one forget that? He annexed that. So, who was right in this situation? Trust me, I don't like our government. It's a fraudulent semi-dictatorship. It's a Bolshevistic system we've got going, just like in Russia. They're criminals. The Pentagon, war criminals. But the Pentagon was right. President Biden. It's the first time I think I've ever said President Biden. He's a fake president, fraudulently installed. But he was actually right. The doddering old fool was right that Russia would use a false flag and invade Ukraine. Now, they were off on the date by a week. Everyone laughed. Ah ha ha, February 16th came and went. Russia didn't invade. Actually, Russian boots have been on the ground for 8 years, but let's forget about that. So, yeah, they all laughed. Said, oh, you're wrong. Ron Paul put out a big article. Aha, see, Russia called your bluff. You thought they were going to invade, and they didn't. We're so corrupt, and we're liars. And Alex Jones is going off on how, oh, it's genocide happening over here in Ukraine. Putin just wants to save people. And Jeff Rentz is just out of his mind right now. Russophile. So these are some of the names that I like and follow. That's why I'm targeting them. I don't expect the liberals and others to be on my side. I don't really care what they say. But the people in my camp, the circles I usually run in, those people, it makes me angry when they're so deceived. So you can go back as far as you want and see how when this really started. You can go back to 2014. You can go beyond that if you really want to. Go back to the Budapest Memorandum. Russia, the United States, and the UK agreed the territorial integrity of Ukraine will not be breached. Well, guess what? Russia breached it 8 years ago. Okay, Russian mercenaries and troops came in. Russian troops came in and took Crimea. They said, oh, there's a referendum. The people wanted it. The same thing. They did phony sham referendums in Luhansk and Donetsk in the Donbass area. So the people wanted it. Okay, let's pretend the people wanted it. Not all of them did, and not all of the area they claimed to control is actually under the control. Ukraine actually controls some of the Donbass area, not these separatist groups. So, but let's say that's true, okay? I wrote an article, published it yesterday, and I use this analogy. It's on my website, theamericancitadel.com. It's called More Russian Lies. At the end of December, I published a 15,000 word article called Russia Lies. And so I go over that. Go look those two articles up. So anyway, I use this analogy. I said, okay, because of the high percentage of Asians in San Francisco, high Chinese and Japanese population, can China march into San Francisco, take it over, declare it an independent state, and say the people wanted it? Would we go along with that? Okay, that's an absurd example, right? Well, let's think of another one. What about all the Spanish speakers and Mexicans littered all throughout the western United States? Or Florida? They're a majority, for crying out loud, in these areas. So if the majority population says, this used to be our land before you took it from us, and we want to be part of Mexico, can Mexico just send in military or mercenaries, let's say drug cartels, which are heavily armed? They're basically, like Russia's mercenaries almost. And they came in there, they chopped off a part of Texas, let's say. Said, this used to be ours. Remember, you stole it in a revolution. You're an illegitimate state, Texas, so we're taking you back. The people want it anyway. Would that be legitimate? Of course not. What about the Native Americans, the first peoples who actually weren't the first peoples here? So on land that they, of course, killed other Indians to get, we then, fought them sometimes. Sometimes we bought land from them. It wasn't genocide. It wasn't just us, going by conquest and stealing everything. I'm so sick and tired of those type of lies. But anyway, let's say they got together, the Iroquois, right? Those nations got back together and said, we want to take back some of our land. Or let's say an Indian tribe, and let's say Virginia, right? Close to Jamestown area, let's say. Okay, let's say that they wanted to just take that land back and said, we were here first. Obviously, they were there first, right? So they could say, Virginia, the whole United States is illegitimate. We were here first. This is our land. And they took it back. And they even passed a referendum. They all got together and said, how? And voted, yes, we want to take it. Is that legitimate? Now, maybe if an actual group organically gets together and they say, we really want, this is our property, this is the majority territory here, we would really like this to be our own separate state, nation. Now, if that's an organic thing, then that's perhaps legitimate, right? Self-determination and all that. Okay? This has happened many times through history. People have a right to group in communities that they choose, right? So maybe that could be legitimate. But what about when a foreign power comes in and does it? Like I said in the first two examples, China comes in or Mexico comes in. And so if they stir up things, or they claim you're being belligerent to us, or there's corruption going on in your government, you're not legitimate anymore, we're going to take you over. Are those legitimate claims? No, that's stupidity. But these are the same claims that people are, lapping up when Vladimir Putin says them. Putin has claimed Ukraine is not a legitimate state. He said Russia created Ukraine. Okay, that's technically true in the political, geopolitical boundaries of today. Russia created those. They also created them for Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, most of the Soviet satellite states. The Stans, why do you think they have the name Stan? Okay, Russia created all that. They drew up all those borders. So does that mean, using the same logic, Russia can just go and occupy all of these areas? This is such flawed, stupid logic. But Putin says it, and everyone says, yeah, he's a liberator. Oh, by the way, that's what Putin has now said. He said, we are liberating Ukraine. That's an official statement from the Russian government. We are liberating Ukraine. He said, surrender, lay down your arms, we're liberating you. But it's not war. It's just a special military operation that involves parachuting airborne units, that involves blowing the crap out of airports, that involves hundreds of dead Ukrainians, that involves amphibious assaults and armor and troops coming in from multiple areas. Maybe they're going to do a pincer movement along the Dnieper River, which kind of geographically separates Ukraine down the middle. Maybe they'll take the whole eastern side, but they've also attacked on the western side. There's almost all parts of Ukraine that they've engaged in with missiles, with helicopters. Helicopters have flown over Kiev. The Ukrainian military has reported that 5 Russian jets and 1 helicopter have been shot down in the eastern part. Oh, the whole eastern part, by the way, that is rightfully Ukrainian territory that has been lopped off by the separatists in 2014, which was aided by Russian troops and mercenaries. That has now been declared independent. Because, Russia can just declare whatever part of the world it wants independent and go in with troops, I guess. And then they give them all citizenship, and then a couple days ago, on the 18th, they, the heads, the puppets of those 2 areas, Donetsk and Luhansk, they ordered evacuations, emergency, today this happened, we need to leave immediately. Actually, those were pre-recorded 2 days earlier. This whole thing is staged, it's ridiculous. And so immediately when they went out, then the Russian Duma said, yeah, we approve a referendum or a proposal to accept them as independent states. And then the next day, Putin approved it. And then immediately ordered troops into there. So is that how you treat independent states? You just immediately send in troops. Evacuate your people. We're sending our military in. And then you attack the other country. Oh, wait, but there's genocide happening. Russia has repeated this claim actually for years, but especially over the past number of weeks. Putin has been saying what's happening in Ukraine constitutes genocide. That's what he said, constitutes genocide. Russia has a habit of blaming people for genocide. Germany, especially in World War II, blamed them for all sorts of genocides that are false and fake and fabricated. I'm only going to mention one, but there's a much bigger one that I'd probably get banned if I mentioned. But the Katyn Forest Massacre in Poland. They massacred, what was it, like 10,000 or more Polish soldiers and officers. They took them to the forest and just shot them, put them in a mass grave. When Hitler preempted Stalin and invaded preemptively, the Soviet Union, which included part of Poland, they discovered all these bodies and they called in international observers, come look at this massacre. These people are psychopaths. Okay, but the Soviet Union said, no, Germany did this. Germany did it. The West lapped it up because they had a complicit media, and they still have a complicit media. And so they repeated these lies, and it was in the history books for years and years and years. And finally, the Soviets opened their archives, and they admitted, yeah, I guess we did that. Russia blames people for what it does or what it is planning to do. This is how communists work. The Soviet Union never collapsed. Go look at my other podcast episode about that. The fake fall of the Soviet Union. You have to understand that. That is crucial. If you understand that, everything else makes sense. You understand these people are not good. They're not opposing the New World Order. That's a lie I keep hearing. Putin is a member of the World Economic Forum and speaks there all the time. He's in the UN. He supports what they do. He's pushing vaccination everywhere. He believes the global warming hoax. He was the first head of state to call George W. Bush the Skull and Bonesman and say, we support your war on terror. We're going to help you. He's invaded his neighbors. He presides over a giant, sprawling international disinformation campaign, which, according to Russian defectors, is actually bigger now than in the Soviet days. This man, he jails his opposition. He assassinates dissidents and whistleblowers. Today, in Moscow, people are protesting. Some people, of course, are supporting, hurrah, hurrah, yeah, Russia, I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm going to go drink some more vodka now. Trust me, I lived there. They drink vodka all day long. But anyway, their people came out and protested. They got arrested by Moscow's police. You can't protest in Putin's Russia. You can't go to church there either, unless you're Russian Orthodox. Otherwise, you get shut down. This guy's a fake Christian. He's an adulterer. His wife left him because of it. He's fathered children out of wedlock. They probably live in Switzerland now, according to the intel. He's done so many things, murdered people, invaded states, and now he's invading with paratroopers and with armor, cruise missiles, amphibious assaults, Ukraine, because he blames the 2014 coup, which he supported, which Russia supported. He blames that on us. But let's say we did do that coup. Does that make it okay for them to come in and just murder people? Invade territory, say, this is now independent. Oh, yeah, and we occupy it. Now we're going to annex this part. Now we're going to invade your whole country. Of course not. Now, my time's up. I have to go. I have other obligations in life. But I just wanted to do this. And yes, I'm getting a little bit irritated and upset because I don't like communists. They're the scourge of the earth. And Vladimir Putin is a murdering, lying scoundrel. He's a genocidal maniac, and he has threatened Europe and the United States constantly for years with nuclear war. Just over a week ago in France, go look it up. He said, we have nuclear weapons, and if you guys, NATO, invoke Article 5 of your charter, you will not have time to blink before we drop weapons of mass destruction on you. He said it. Go look it up. He repeated today, if anyone interferes, there will be consequences never before seen. And the military is just like, yeah, we're taking out Ukrainian installations, and no one cares. But to my friends in the conspiracy community, wake up. Putin is not on our side. He's not fighting the New World Order. He's a lying genocidal maniac, and he's invading another country, and those are innocent people. The hundreds who have died, they have families. John Adams said in 1794, great is the guilt of an unnecessary war. Putin, you share this guilt. And you're going to burn for it one day. Sic semper tyrannis. Long live liberty. And go Ukraine.